Okay, welcome to Between the Verses, Real Talk, Real Faith. I'm Kelly LaVerne, and I thank you for tuning in for this episode. So, today we need to talk about Sarah. Now, her story can be found in Genesis chapters 12 through 23. So, please read it, and then reread it, especially after you listen to this. Last time we talked about Eve, and that was about influence. But Sarah, this one right here is about waiting and then almost giving up. I don't know about you, but I don't like to wait. Honestly, I'm not even going to, as the young folks say, hold you. I do not like to wait, right? And, if everyone's being honest, there's probably some people out there like me and like Sarah who just don't like to wait. We think if God promised something, it should happen almost immediately. Like, why not? He's God, right? But we come to learn that God's timing is not our timing. But let's get back into Sarah. Now, when we first meet her, I don't know if y'all were aware of this, but her name is actually Sarai. And the Bible wastes no time telling us one thing: she couldn't have children. Not maybe later, not we'll see. No, that was her reality. And in that time, it wasn't just personal, it was public. It followed you everywhere, it labeled you, it made you feel like something was missing. Okay. I mean, it was, well, you were looked down upon, frowned upon if you couldn't have children. And here's the twist: she's the one connected to the promise, connected to the promise. Now, God tells Abraham he's going to be a great nation. And we know Sarah is his wife, right? And husband and wife, usually, for that to happen, you got to be able to have some offspring. And so Sarah, is like, okay, God, but how? Because this situation is not matching what you said. And now this is where it gets real with Sarah, because she's living in two places at once: what God said and what she sees, and they don't match. Anybody else ever been there? Okay. So she leaves everything with Abraham. She travels, she trusts, she follows, but then time starts passing. Now, I'm not talking weeks or months, but I'm talking years. And at some point, the silence gets louder than the promise, excuse me. The silence starts getting louder than the promise. And that's a hard place to be because, especially when you're not confused about what God said, you just don't see it happening. You know God said it. You believe that he said it. You just don't see it happening. You don't know how it's going to happen. You can't even imagine a way for it to happen. And you've been waiting for years and you're tired now. Okay. Now, there's some that might be able to handle it, but I can relate to Sarah because I don't know about you, but I can relate. Now, here's where people get a little quiet when telling her story, though, because Sarah reaches a moment where she basically says, maybe it's not going to happen through me. And woof, that right there, man, that right there, that's real. That's a whole conversation because she didn't stop believing in God. I don't want us to miss this. She didn't stop believing in God. She just stopped believing how God would make it happen. So what does she do? We know she comes up with a plan. But listen, we're women, right? We're doers. Women, we're naturally doers. We're nurturers. We wait on God. After times pass, especially years, we try to fix it ourselves. And don't give me that look, because some of us don't even wait. Like, let's be real. Some of us don't wait weeks, months, and certainly not years to trying to start make it happen to come up with another plan and try to call it God's plan. All right, we're gonna talk about Sarah. I don't want to make nobody mad. We're gonna talk about Sarah. So she just stopped believing how it would happen. So she came up with a plan. If it can't happen this way, maybe it can happen another way. And let me tell you, this wasn't rebellion. This was someone tired of waiting. And then things get really complicated. So now we see Hagar enters the picture. And at first, it looks like it's working. But almost immediately, everything shifts. Now, we're going to get in Hagar's story a little later, but basically, Hagar was Sarah's handmaiden, if you didn't know. And back then, in Bible times, husbands could have certain privileges with the handmaidens, the servants of the wife, if you will. So Sarah comes up with this plan. She gets some things out there because, maybe it's not going to happen through her. But what about this other woman over here? So she institutes her plan. Hubby goes along with it, and everything shifts because now there's tension. Now there's comparison. Now there's hurt. And Sarah ends up dealing with something she created but can't control anymore. Whew. Ouch. And let me say this plainly, just because something works doesn't mean it's right, and it doesn't mean it's God. I think we all need to hear that again. Just because something works doesn't mean it's right, and it doesn't mean it's God. Now here's the part I love. After all of that, God comes back. He doesn't adjust the promise. He doesn't say, "Oh, I see what you did. We'll just work with that." No, he brings it right back. It's going to happen through Sarah. He's like, "No, this is my word. This is what I said, and it's going to happen through Sarah, not the workaround, not your backup plan, through her." And I need you to catch this. God didn't change his word just because she tried to fix it. He didn't change his word just because she tried to fix it. Sarah, she gets a bad rap, but let's keep reading. I don't know. Any of us in her shoes. Now, even though it was back then and that was allowed, I'm still like, I don't know about sending my husband in with, handmaiden. I just, but, again, that was the time. And yeah, I kind of jumped around what happened or skipped right over it. But I did say Adam went in there. And then Hagar does get pregnant. But that's another episode. So the plan, his word, his promise was still in motion. Was still in motion. But this part here is one of my favorites, okay? When Sarah hears the promise again, she laughs. Not happy laughter, not excited laughter, that, yeah, okay, right, sure, whatever you say, kind of laugh. Because at this point, it feels too late, too far gone, and too unrealistic, right? Now, see, not only was Sarah or Sarai at the time barren, couldn't have children, but by now, like, she's old. She's up in years, okay? And she's like laughing. That's be like somebody coming to you and you're, in your 80s telling you you're going to have a baby. You would laugh hysterically. I don't know. I think I'd laugh too if God even told me that. I be like, you know what? It's comical, right? If you think about it. I know again, we give Sarah a hard time because she laughed, but imagine being in her shoes. How would you respond? It feels too late, too far gone. It's unrealistic. And then God responds with one question. He asked her, is anything too hard for the Lord? And listen, that question wasn't just for her. That question is for anybody who's looking at their situation like, yeah, I don't see how this is going to happen. Right? So let's bring this a little closer to home because, again, this isn't just Sarah. This is waiting for something you were sure would have happened by now. The only way this would happen, if it was going to happen, it would have happened by now. You're watching time pass and nothing changes. You're trying to stay faithful, but you're feeling tired, starting to wonder maybe if it's not for you, starting to wonder maybe if you heard God wrong, starting to wonder if maybe God really didn't say that, starting to wonder, starting to wonder, starting to wonder. And you know what happens when our minds start to wander, wonder, W O, too long, then we start to wander, WA. But anyway, when that happens, you start making adjustments, not because you don't believe God, but because waiting feels harder than doing something. That's so true. It's so hard to just sit still and do nothing. And I mean that, figuratively. Hopefully everyone knows, unless God told you to sit physically still, that we're still supposed to go about living while we're waiting. But waiting, it's so hard because our again, nurturers, we want to make things happen. And after, we wait too long, we either try to fix it ourselves or we give up. So like I said, when we wander too long, we wander. And waiting feels harder than doing something. So you try to help it along, you try to fix it, you try to make it make sense. And that's when things get complicated, they get messy, emotional. And now you're dealing with something you didn't expect. And this is where the story turns. I know back in my mom's day, they had, a soap opera was it As the World Turns. I never watched it. I don't even know if she watched it, but it came on As the World Turns. That's what made me think of that when I said, and this is where the story turns. For some, this will be where your world turns. Because after waiting, after all the doubt, after all the detours, God does exactly what he said. Sarah gets pregnant and she gives birth. And now she's laughing again, but it's different. This time it's not disbelief, it's amazement. It's like, wow, God really did that. He really did it. Like, wow, look at this. I'm amazed. I'm amazed. So let me tell you what this really is, friend to friend. And we're looking at Sarah from the aspect of her being a woman and being able to relate to her and her relate to us. Now, no, we didn't go through her, her entire story, but there was a promise, as we discussed, given to her husband, right? He was going to be the father of many nations. She couldn't have children. She laughs. Now, because she laughs, God, there is a consequence, and that can be found in Genesis. There is a consequence now because she laughs and the way she laughs. But God still does it. Even with that consequence that she had to face, God still kept his promise, honored his word. But now she went and did something else, and that woman got pregnant too. So now we got two here. Uh oh. What's happening? So this is where it's now complicated. It's now messy, and she got to deal with it. But what this really is, friend to friend, Sarah's story is about waiting longer than you expected and then trying to help God, questioning if it's ever going to happen, and still seeing it come to pass anyway. But here's the truth: God didn't cancel the promise because she struggled. He didn't take it back because she doubted. This should be freeing. He didn't replace her when she tried to fix it herself. He still fulfilled it. Like I said, he didn't say, okay, well, we'll go with your plan. He still fulfilled his promise, his word. And she doubted. I want us to catch that. Now, I'm not encouraging, doubt, but we know we're human and we're honest with ourselves. There's times when we be like, I don't know, God. I don't know how that's going to happen. Or I don't see it, God. And even in that, God didn't take back his word. And prayerfully, he won't do it in your situation or my situation either. So, all right, here's our Monday move. Now, if you missed last time, I'll keep explaining this, as we go along, but we're not just hearers over here. We just don't hear or talk about the word. We actually do something. We actually apply it. So I like to call it our Monday move. Because after service, you get the word, you get full, you get fed, and then sometimes by Monday, you didn't forgot how to apply it. Not thinking about apply it. It then left your memory. And I'm not saying it's purposely, but we know how life and it's right out of our head. Or we know how situations can come up. And it was all fine and good when we was in church and we're, love your neighbor as yourself. And then your neighbor does, something that ticks you off. We might forget about that word. But anyway, let me get back to this. Monday move. Our Monday move. I'm sorry, y'all. I am a teacher at heart. I just love to teach. So, Monday move. I want you to ask yourself, where have I started trying to help God? Where have you started trying to help God? Now, this isn't something that you have to write down or have to report back. This is for your own personal knowledge to help you see, to help you realize. Maybe you're not trying to, help God. That's great. That's a blessing. But there's some that are like me and maybe like Sarah that, once we get tired of waiting, we try to make it happen. Be honest with yourself. And where did waiting turn into controlling? So we got to be careful because when we start waiting and waiting too long, now we want to control it. So we want to fix it. And where did trusting turn into figuring it out yourself? So that's a question. There's three parts to that question, or two extra parts, rather. So the first is, where have I started trying to help God? The next one was, where did waiting turn into controlling? And where did trusting Him turn into figuring it out for yourself? And then ask, did God actually change His plan or did I? And listen, it's not about guilt, it's about awareness because once you see it, you can release it. Once you see it, you can release it. So we're not only going to hear what Sarah did, we want to learn from it. We want to make some moves because of it. Because she's teaching us something if we pay attention. She's teaching us something. So if you're in a season where you've been waiting, you've been questioning, you've been trying to figure it out yourself, or you've been wondering whether it's too late, let me say this plainly because delay is not denial. And just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. Because if God said it, Time doesn't change it. If it's from God, time doesn't change it. And it will be according to his word. Now, God's not going to promise you something that goes against his word. Just want to slip that in there. But time doesn't change it. My pastor, I love how she, would break it down. There's a scripture. I'm sorry, I don't have the actual chapter and verse in front of me, but a day with the Lord is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. And, she breaks it down she says that, our lifetime to God could be a nanosecond. Can you think about that? It could be a nanosecond. I mean, you could be 30, that's a nanosecond to God. You could be 80, that's but a nanosecond to God. So we're looking at it like it's years, and it hasn't even changed to the next minute yet in God's time. His time is not like our time. So delay is not denial. And that's some good news. That's some good news. Time doesn't change God's word. We could be celebrating off of that. Because some of us are still waiting for some things. Some of us we're starting to wander because we've been wondering. And if that's you, listen, I'm not here to judge because I've been there, done that. Almost got a t-shirt. But I've been there and done that. But we can come back to God. Some people, oh, I messed up. I messed up too bad. We talked about what Eve did, and we saw how God moved in her life. In case you missed it, you should definitely go back and listen to Eve. But very quick, Eve promise didn't come until after she had messed up in that garden. Go back and check it out. And now we see Sarah made a mess. She then got another woman. Now, the woman, I know some might be saying, well, why did the other woman, go along with it? She must have. We'll get into that. Trust me. We're going to talk about that. But this time was Sarah's turn. So I hope we all can gather something from Sarah. And I'm going to leave it right here. Because if you really sit with it, it'll meet you exactly where you are. And listen, if you ever laughed at something God told you, like, yeah, I don't see that happening, remember, you're not alone. But also, you might want to get ready because he just might do it anyway. Don't forget to go back and check out Sarah. Read her story. Now that you got a little more insight, read her story. And she was found in, let me see, I had it here. I want to make sure I give you the exact verses, the right chapters, excuse me. Genesis chapters 12 through 23. Go back, look in your word, and remember what we discussed today as you do. See if you get some more insight. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening as we looked at Sarah. We got a new girlfriend. Eve as our girlfriend. Now we got Sarah as our girlfriend. Okay, girlfriends? So we will be back next time with our next girlfriend that we'll talk about, and we're going to learn from her, right? I'm Kelli LaVerne. I'll see you next time when Between the Verses, real talk, real faith, eavesdrop. Stay tuned.